You can waste years trying to figure leadership out on your own, years falling behind, years not knowing why you aren't getting the results you expect. Nowadays, there's more leadership content than ever, and most firefighters and officers are drowning in it and still not making progress. That's why we created the Fireground Company membership. This membership isn't for everyone. It's for firefighters and officers who refuse to be average. Once you join, you gain access to the Insider Podcast, Leadership Q&A, where we answer the questions you submit to us, discussion feeds, private resources, exclusive discounts, and more. Right now, we have a founding member discount for the first 50 members to join. Visit firegroundcompany.com before this offer is gone.
On today's episode of the Fireground Company podcast, we discuss the difference between intentions and results and some practical ideas on how to get from one to the other.
The Fireground Company podcast.
I can never tell whether what I'm saying is like causing you to think about stuff that's useful for the podcast, or if you're just like bored out of your mind.
No,
those two faces look very similar.
I know. Yeah, people have said that my whole life. I don't. Yeah, I've heard that my whole life. I look angry or I look like disinterested. I guess maybe it's a good way, like a little bit of a poker face sometimes. I mean, sometimes. No,
it's great. It's great. It's so, because like after you said that, you're like, yeah, while you were talking, I was like, oh, I was like relieved. Like, okay, he wasn't bored or mad. He was just listening and thinking.
I'm usually, I would say I'm thinking about what I need to say and if it's going to fit in with what you're going to say. And then I'm also thinking about, like I said, what you're saying, and it just, it creates other thoughts that start going around there. And I'm like, I don't want to go off on too many tangents.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's one of the difficulties is like everything. And that's why, we're used to being around each other for 24 hours at a time. And we can just follow all the tangents we want, but now we're recording it. Speaking of recording it, we got another episode here in front of us. I've actually got the wrong one. Let's see here. Do some paper shuffling. All right. Okay. So this one, another episode that was brought about by an actual occurrence in real life and made you think about some stuff. And, said you want to talk about it here on the podcast. So what do you got?
Yeah. So I'm working an overtime shift at my firehouse on a different shift, obviously, than I work on. And one of the guys on that shift previously was on ours or whatever. So he always likes kind of joking and starting little things, this and that. I can't remember exactly how it came up, but we were talking about something, and he brought up the point of one of the other guys in the room said, he said when he is an officer, some of the stuff he's going to enforce or tighten up on. I can't remember. He kind of said it in a funny way. I knew what he's doing. He was doing this whole, he wanted to kind of set me up, to pit me against him or whatever. He just wanted to do that kind of whatever, that setup, right? And I was like, come on,
drop
dude.
A little bomb there.
It's like, come on, dude. I know you. I've worked with you. I know all the little things you try and do. I was like, you're not going to get me like that. So anyway, it was about the uniform, because I guess the guy... implication is that when he gets promoted, or something he thinks of like right now that is important to a degree, is how you wear the uniform and I asked him, I said, hey man, well, just tell me. And, I'm not, I guess, let me explain where I'm at. I'm it's like a medium uniform guy. I don't even know how to say it, but I think you should be in fire department stuff. You should be somewhat well kept. I'm not like to the letter, the tucked in shirt all the time. I don't have a problem if you want to do that. That's fine one way or the other. At least the proper shoes on. I'm not a big guy on how polished they have to be, but ultimately I'm like, can you do the job and everything else? But I understand the point of, we should be presentable. Mm-hmm. We should be, if that's a thing, like some people say they want to look sharp and also perform well. I understand all that. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying my personal way of how I do things, what matters to me. It's not up there. Everyone's going to be a little different. I think that's another important thing is, as an officer, you're going to find out the little things that matter to you versus someone else. So in our fire department policy too, when I first started, it was a little more, I think everyone was in line, a little more tight with that, having tucked in shirts. And then over time, I think we got maybe a little out of hand with that, brought back on board with that, and kind of we're in the middle ground area, I guess, right now. But anyway, so he's trying to say, hey, this guy is he thinks, he wants him to point out like, well, what is it? It's like, oh, well, the shoes should have a little more polish, pointing out my shoes don't have a polish, and shirt tucked in, everything else. And I'm like, okay, it's cool, man. You're not gonna, I'm not gonna be mad at you. It's all right. It's okay. So that started, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, so he's not promoted a firefighter, of course. And when he gets promoted, well, then how would he do that? So then I said to him, just to get him to think, because I wanted him to understand this, because this can trip people up. I said, so how do you do that? How? I mean, you could say that's what you want, but depending on how you go about that, and also depending on the people, what they're wearing and who they are, their attitudes, that's the human factor that complicates this stuff so much more than you just say, I want to do uniforms and I want to look like this. So I was like, well, how do you do that? I just asked him. And I don't think he had thought past that's something that was important to him. And this is, and maybe he has, but this tends to be a hiccup in general. I'm talking about now where, just because you tell people to do something because you have rank doesn't always make that happen. And people forget that there's more to it. It's how you say that. It's also depending on who you are. Yeah. It depends on the policies that you have. So there's all these other factors. And
I've seen a lot of officers, and obviously there's different personalities that come into it, but I've heard a few officers who are officers now that when they were firefighters say things like, well, when I'm promoted, this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
always worries me.
And it's cool to have something where you're like, all right, this is where I'm going to plant my flag, and this is important to me. But what you said, that question of, okay, how, well, I'm just going to do it. How? Okay. How? Everything has to have a process or an approach that you're going to take to it. So, again, I'm not against having some things that you stand for, but I've heard so many people say, well, when I get promoted, I would get that guy straight. Okay.
Yeah.
How would you?
It's a lot harder than you think.
It's dude. A lot
harder than you think.
It's very easy, to throw out those grand statements when, there's nothing required of you. But then, and we've both seen it. They get the gold, and it's like, where are you at, dude? All this stuff you were talking about. What? And so I guess that's kind of what we're talking about today, right? So we'll bring it back to this. We're kind of using this the uniform situation. It's not really meant to discuss uniforms specifically. Like I said, we all have different.
It's a good example.
It's a good example. So we should say that here is that this. I don't think this episode is specifically discussing the ins and outs of how proper your uniform is, but we're using that, which is a. Kind of a topic that has, as you kind of pointed out already, some people can be super, specific about their uniform requirements, and some people can be a little more general. So it's a topic with a little wiggle room that we can discuss. If you were an officer that had a specific stance on something like this, or it's something you wanted to see get done at your firehouse, what are some approaches? How do we answer that question of how?
Yeah, because this could go a few different ways. I mean, you can go in there and go over the top, and then they just start hating you.
Yeah,
and that's just we've
seen that
bad, man. You can go in there and try and enforce it, and there's a little bit of disrespect, and they don't do what you want them to do. So now it's a little challenge to your authority. So you gotta. I guess I'm trying to think of how to say this. you got to play it kind of down the middle at first and feel things out. You don't want to be too over the top with it, but you want people to understand that it is something that is either important to you or something that needs to be enforced. And I guess this situation we'll go through in a second here is either you're going to a new firehouse and you're trying to do this, or you're a newly promoted officer and you're trying to do this. If you're a newly promoted officer, in some ways, it may be a little harder because you don't have a reputation. I mean, as far as being an officer, you may have a reputation as a firefighter. You typically, if you're a newer officer, you don't have as much time. So just time in the job can help you get a little more respect as far as trying to get points across and stuff like that. Even still, though, if you've been around for a while, I mean, there's some wild crews, man, you can go into, and it's just hard no matter what. So anyway, so basically the how. So that I asked him how. He didn't really have, I guess, hadn't thought it through to that degree. So I just went through, a few different options. I'm going to talk about 3 here. So you have, and it's one's not more important than the other. A lot of this depends on the personalities you're dealing with and your own personality. So you got to kind of feel this out. It's kind of general advice, but I guess I'll just call option 1. You can go in there and you can, from early on, not necessarily the first day, but I'm not saying you can't be the first day, but got to gauge all this, is go in there and explain that this is important to you. The uniform is important to me. So, and tell them your expectations. I mean, if you have a policy that backs that up, it could be as simple as, hey, look, this is the policy. This is what I want us to do. And, just point out stuff. So if you see some deficiencies, like, hey guys, look, this is important to me that we follow this policy as far as, hey, I appreciate it. Shirts tucked in, shoes to have a little shine on it. I know they're working shoes. This isn't a dress uniform. I get all that, but a little something to look like you're putting a little effort into it. Pants that aren't just sloppy, use a washing machine every once in a while. Something like that. Explain to them that it's important and the standard that you want. And I mean, I guess you can mess this up by being a little too authoritative, where you just say, hey, look, this is important to me. We're going to do this, and you're going to have your shoes shined, and you're going to have your uniform, your shirts tucked in. I mean, I said the same thing, but obviously my tone was a little different, but it's different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those two, what do you think? I mean, from your perspective, I mean, how do you think that plays, both of those sides? I mean, do you think you're going to get enough buy-in from the, I don't know, maybe softer way, if you're going to call it that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to call it the softer way. I think it's
Smarter way?
Yeah, smarter way, more tactful way. And like you said, there's so many variables here. It has to do with the personality of the crew, how you handle this. So if you have a crew of a bunch of people that are just like not bought in and to anything, and it's like you're bringing the whole thing up, sometimes a little bit more of a firmer tone of like, hey, look, we're doing this, and it's not an option. That can actually be more warranted. But if you go into, and again, we like to use the word culture, but if there's a good culture in the firehouse already, then I think that more tactful approach is kind of almost you building a culture around this thing that's important to you. So, from my perspective, since you asked for it, if somebody comes in and says, we actually had something like this happen once on a different crew a long time ago, and it actually had to do with the uniform thing. And the approach to it was pretty good, and it was because it was kind of the ground up, and it was like, hey, look, I want to look better than everybody else. I want people to know that we take this job seriously, and so there was an expectation like, look, this is. But then, I was thinking while you're talking, you could build it in and be like, all right, so if we're going to do the shoe shine thing, let's say at 8:30 we all get together in the day room and put a little polish on our shoes and have a little conversation, you know, so then it kind of becomes a little thing. You get ownership, it gets worked into the culture, and now it's not like this thing coming down. And then also, you know, it has to do with that leadership capital too. Like if you're coming in on day one, you're still establishing that. So your approach to something like that has to be a little different. Now, if you slowly build that and there's a relationship there, then a lot of times, this is hard to believe, but I'm telling you from my perspective again, that I'll do it just because that's important to you. Yeah. So, you know, and that matters to me. But then again, it kind of builds in over time where like, well, this is how Cap likes it. So this is how we do it. And it actually, you end up taking ownership of it as the crew too. I'm thinking of a couple of personalities on our shift that do that incredibly well, where they represent because that's what Cap said and that's what we do. And then there's almost a pride of that's how we carry something out. So like, to circle back around, you asked my perspective on that approach. I think it does vary based on what kind of crew you're dealing with. I think if you're looking at a healthy crew that is, you know, mid to high performing, has a good culture in the firehouse, things like that, then I think this a little bit of that those are the kind of people that you're going to turn off with a very authoritative approach. Yeah. You know.
But you know, I was thinking about as you were talking the rookie thing we did. I mean, it was the other, like I said, another fire department I worked for. The rookie thing with uniforms, it was very clear cut. I don't think it was a policy, but it was so ingrained in the culture that when you were a rookie, until you got off your probation, you would wear the button-up shirt, right? And you'd wear that no matter what until you went to bed. And once you got through your probation, part of the celebration of that was getting to take that shirt off and being able to wear a t-shirt. So it was kind of cool. It was like a little thing. I liked it. I know we've dabbled with that at our firehouse. We've talked about that. There's, I guess, the way our contract and policies are written, you can't really enforce that. But again, that's like a cultural thing. Like I think, dabbled with saying, hey, look, I can't tell you to do this. I mean, the policy is the policy, but something that's kind of cool is, you know, we had a tradition where the rookie would wear the button-up shirt, and then when they get off probation, that's part of the reward of it. You know, and you really,
it's an interesting approach.
You embrace that.
Is like putting it in the rookie's hands.
Yeah. And I mean, it's up to you. It's just a, you know, cool little suggestion there. And, you know, it shows, I think, a little buy-in to the crew and everything else. There's no obligation to do that. No one's going to treat you any worse if you don't, but it's kind of a cool thing. So, I mean, that's, you know, it's nice to have those little traditions with that kind of stuff. And that's again, a little different circumstance where you're just presenting that to them because of the way policies and contracts are written and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just a cool little thing. So,
one, I know you're going to move on to a different approach too, but just something that just popped into my head real quick is because I'm thinking of that same personality of somebody that, you know, if it's important to the captain, that's what we're going to do. And something like that actually ends up creating sort of a self-policing kind of thing where the officer doesn't have, so you'll get like a senior man or somebody, a personality that's really bought into the culture like that will go to somebody else and be like, you look sloppy, get yourself together. Or like, hey man, it's 8:00, get a uniform on. Yeah. Or, hey, you know, if you were wearing a t-shirt that's got the patch of your firehouse on it, it's like, that's how you're going to represent us, looking sloppy like that. Or, you know, stuff like that, you know, and that's why I'm a big believer in having, you know, firehouse patches and stuff, because then it's, you know, you're not only representing your department, which I think for better or for worse, we all need to do better of representing our departments, but it also makes it personal. Like this is my firehouse, you know, and when I wear something with this patch on it, you know, it speaks to that. But again, my point is, if you do it right, you can actually get some advocates for you, not just you against the world, which some of this officer stuff can feel like sometimes it's like it's all on you. But you'll actually get, you know, I like to say you deputize people, you know, and they become, they'll self-police. So you'll get one guy will say to another guy, "Hey man, you look sloppy. You like find an iron," you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking about, a few years back when we had different policies and contracts and stuff like that. As far as we were having the rookies do that, and then we had an officer that came in and said, "Man, what are you doing? You gonna wear that all day?" And then basically undermine the whole thing.
I remember
Tell
that.
them to take it off, and you're just like, "What are you doing, man?" I mean, the guy's not. He's not dying. He's not sweating to death or anything else. He's hydrated, as people like to say.
Well, the irony of that whole thing was maybe a year or two after that, where they said we can't make them wear that. They came out with a policy that the whole department
We had to wear that
all day.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah, and even when we get up out of bed, you know,
right?
and it
Yeah,
was just
putting them on at 2 a.m.
But it's just this guy, you know, you're just thinking to yourself, like, you're undermining stuff, man. I mean, you ask about it, but does he look like he's struggling? I mean, so yeah, I just, it's interesting thing, the approaches to that. But the rookie, I remember actually it was kind of cool because if I was off and then you said that after that, they were only there part of the day, that officer working overtime, that as soon as they left, they put the shirt back on.
That's correct, because
And
they wanted a part, they wanted a piece of that.
Yeah, and the officer put him in an awkward spot, which I don't blame him, but
They did, because now, I mean, that rookie knows the expectation,
yeah.
and it's kind of a slap in the face to everybody if he says, "Oh, well, I got permission from, you know."
Yeah, and they were
substitute
smart
teacher."
enough to recognize that, and that won them points in
It
that
did.
situation. And
Yeah.
say, wow, this guy's actually doing that. So anyway, yeah, that's one option. I guess we're gonna move to another option with the how.
Option 2.
Option 2 for the how to get it done. It's important to do. You can talk about it this way. Hey, look, it's important to do the little stuff. And, you know, one of the little things, easy to do, shoes, tucked in shirt, good uniform, following that, because it doesn't bring negative light to us with the BC, right? Fellas, if we can do that, then the BC isn't looking at everything else. So if we maybe make a mistake or screw something up, we're going to get a little more leeway. We're going to get, and maybe they don't even notice, and we correct the problem before it becomes an issue, whether it's operationally or in the firehouse. But if we're out there and we look sloppy and we don't look like we're prepared, then BC's going to see that. Chief's going to see that. He's going to notice that. And what do you think that's going to do? Do you think that's going to bring the wrong kind of light down on us? Yeah. And just ask them. Hey, and they'll say, yeah, usually I'll hear you, unless they're real stubborn about it. But that's, you know, hey, look, we're doing this so we don't get messed with all the time. Maybe you have that chief that's his thing, right? So you don't want to get messed with. Let's not do those little things that he's going to pick up on, and it's going to create more problems for us.
This, I'm thinking a lot of stuff when you're just talking about it. This echoes something that you've said before in some of the conversations we've had, which is like find out what matters to people, you know, and use that. I say as leverage. I don't mean that in like a manipulative way, but I just mean like find out what matters to people, because it can be different. So when you were just talking, it made me think of something we've said a lot, which we've gone up and down. I think our department is a little better about it now, but there was a time when we were transferring people a lot and just kind of moving people around for various reasons, which were terrible and you know, not understood by us, but still that was happening. And we had a great crew. And one of the things that sort of woke us up or would really talk to us was like, do you want to keep this crew together? You know? And that was like, yeah, that's all I want. I don't, almost to the point where like, I'll do anything that I have to do to make sure. And then, you know, I remember whether it's little things like this with uniforms or, you know, something like putting wheel chocks down or, you know, these kind of like little, these littler things, you know, it's like, do you want to, I know that's annoying for you as a driver to worry about that every time, but do you want to do that? or do you want to get transferred? And make a case for the fact that, look, if we keep it tight with all these things that the Chiefs are looking at, then maybe we win sort of the things that really matter to us. And for that crew, it was staying together. And that might not be every crew, and that's what made me think, you may have a crew that, well, I don't care about where I work or whatever, but there might be something else they do care about. Yeah. Like maybe it's, hey, we go to this gym to work out instead of working at the firehouse. But that's something that is a gift to us. Sort of, they don't have to let us do that. But hey, man, if you just keep your uniform tight, all right, then we probably will never have any questions asked about going to the gym. But, they start coming down on us about the uniforms, and then they start digging in and they're like, oh yeah, and you guys are going to work out at this commercial gym? No way, forget about that. So let's keep the light off of us by doing these little things. And again, it doesn't have to be the little things. And I think that's what you're saying here, is that you can use this approach. If it's something that's important to you personally, you can use this approach of like, hey, let's keep this tight. So you're kind of winning two things. You're making it important to them because it's important to you.
Yeah. And a lot of times what you're going to have to do is remind people. They're going to forget. It may not be, something they think about a lot. Or like the gym example, some departments will have a policy where, hey, if you got to work out, you got to still have a department t-shirt on. You got to have a certain colored shorts on, black or navy blue and whatever. Some kind of policy like that, where you can see where stuff like that starts to slip. So you go to the gym and you get this, you get this time at this facility that, whatever, a rec center or something that's a nice deal for you guys, or some other, public gym or whatever. But you start to see guys sliding where they're wearing, now this dude's wearing red shorts. Yeah. Or this guy's doing, or they have like some
t-shirt that says something
t-shirt that says something on it.
Unbecoming to the fire department.
Yeah. Or just the t-shirt that I just have an athletic t-shirt on from, it says like whatever, like a company or something, it's just, or a sports team, something like that. It's not controversial, but it's outside of what we're supposed to do. Or you're supposed to have white or black shoes and someone has like red shoes and the department's take on that probably is we want people to look professional, uniform, represent us because you're on duty. So that's the thing. If you're the officer or even like a senior firefighter or respected member of the crew pointing out, say, fellas, if we want to keep doing this, we gotta wear the right stuff, right? And, because maybe a chief comes by or another officer says something and then passes that on. And then now it's like something you enjoyed for something as silly as the uniform. I mean, we had it with, I remember shorts. We've gone back and forth over the years where we finally got the ability to have shorts, and then there was like 2 styles you could buy, and then people got off the hook buying all different stuff, and then the department got mad, or people were wearing shorts past the time they were supposed to wear them, or situations they weren't supposed to have them in. Like if you had official department training, you weren't allowed to have them on. And then they just took it away from us. Right. And that's an example of...
And that's where we become our own worst enemies sometimes.
Yeah. And maybe it's a little extreme, but at the same time, man, that's the current state of things. So police each other in the sense that remind each other that, hey, man, if we get excessive with all this, we're not, wearing the right 2 options we have or the 1 option we have. This is going to hurt everyone and you're going to lose the ability. I mean, we did the same thing with company shirts a while back where you had an official policy, you had to get them approved, you do the right thing, then the company down the street doesn't, then they take it away. It's stuff like that where just pointing that out can go a long way of getting people to go along.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants something, and if you can, again, it's kind of, Leadership 101 is find out what motivates people and use that. A funny side note here, just to break up the conversation a little bit. Since we only do this podcast on audio, which I think has been a choice so far, we don't do the YouTube video thing. You can't see it, but I've been wagging this ballpoint pen around like to make my points and to talk with my hands, but I've had it backwards in my hand and it's been drawing on my palm this entire time. So now I have all these little black ink marks all over my palm. I noticed it while you were talking. I was like, what the? Anyways, funny little note to bring you in the room with us here.
These are nice pens, man.
Yeah, we both have them. We
Yeah,
have yours is really nice.
Yeah, I was just doing like the Iceman thing from Top Gun, like you like talking about.
Yeah. I've been like flicking my pen and doing the little twirly deal, but also apparently drawing on my palm this whole time. Anyway, all right. So there's option 3, right? Let's check in real quick. Option 1 was just kind of mentioning that it's important to you and kind of going on that.
Yeah, just why.
Like, hey, it's kind of an appeal to the relationship.
Sharp
like this
look.
is important to me. Option 2 is, hey, like let's do this stuff so that it keeps the light off of us, the focus off of us, and we can have a little more grace with the higher ups. So those are kind of 2 approaches. And again, just to remind you, we're kind of talking about like, how do you go about enforcing something in a way other than just straight authority? So you got another approach for us?
Yeah. So the third one I'll talk about is basically say, hey, look, this is the policy. If we don't enforce it, you're going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. And I think it's also important to say that you're going to get in trouble, because you'll have these people that'll push back and say, oh man, what's the big deal and everything else. And it's like, look, man, if I don't enforce this, you know what's going to happen? BC is going to say something to me and they're going to say, hey, what's going on with that guy? You're not, he's not in uniform. What are you doing? I'm going to write you up. And it's like, and then guess what he's going to do? And then he's still going to write the guy up that's not in the right shirt. It's not like he gets off free. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets written up. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing here? So that's kind of, a lot of times if you have the more strict battalion chiefs, or if you want to just leverage this to help you explain to the person, that's a way of doing it. I mean, I've done it where I'm like, hey man, help me out. Look, I have this guy. This is a big thing to him. The chief is all about this. And he asked me about the uniforms in the firehouse. Like, dude, we got to make sure we're on point with this. All right. I'm going to get written up, and then you're going to get written up if we don't enforce it. So you got to help me, man. And ultimately, it's going to keep you from getting in trouble. There's no freebie. If I get written up, you're going to get it too. So that's probably the third option. I mean, there's some other stuff, but.
Yeah, no, there's, I think I've actually mentioned this book before on this podcast, is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah. And so here's a little, it just triggered this when you talk this. It has these little things that are just like, yeah, it works. I think before in the other episode, we talked about using somebody's name and how powerful that can be. Like you say, instead of, hey man, can you do this? You say, hey, John, can you help me? Or you, if at a grocery store, you see somebody's nameplate, you say their name, boom, it creates a relationship. So that's like a little powerful hack that's super easy. And another one that he has that made me just think is, you frame something in a way that says, can you help me with this? Yeah. It's so disarming, right? And this is true in just regular, like, hey, and you can add like I noticed you're good at this. Can you help me with something? Or I need help. And the thing is it taps into a human desire to help other humans. I know we don't, that doesn't seem like that's the case in the world we live in today, but it is true. Biologically, we have sort of a drive to help somebody, and it kind of immediately triggers that and taps into it. Can you help me? And all of a sudden that puts you in the driver's seat, right? Or the person that you're appealing to, because it's like, oh, I am helping them. I am doing a favor for them. Yeah. And that's a different dynamic, right? And it can be
flipping that stereotypical dynamic of the officer. I'm telling you what to do. I'm helping you as the firefighter, versus now it's like the firefighter is helping me, which kind of gives the firefighter, I think, a little ownership of that situation, and a little like, oh, like you said, like, oh, wow, I can help you, you know? Like, okay, it's a little different.
It is a little different, and I think that's why it works. So that's a good one for.
Yeah, and I mean, I have 2 stories from my own world about this. I had one where I had a tough crew in the sense that they had a lot of work to do to get better at the job. Weren't really bought in. Weren't the best rule followers. So not a place I wanted to go, but I was there. And right off the bat, I heard something murmurings from the BC about one of the firefighters. They went out and they got their own shirts printed. And they got like basically instead of a navy blue, it was a black shirt with the department, all the printing on it. And he was starting to notice that. And I was like, here we go. This is going to become a problem. So I went to the guy and I said, this is early on, probably in the first few days, I said, hey man, what's up with the black shirt? What are we doing? And I realized I could approach him that way. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, the black shirt, dude. You have a black shirt on with the department printing on it. You obviously went out. I think it was even like one of those
it was I remember
like an
dry fit
kind of Under Armour or whatever, one of those. And I'm just like, dude, well, I mean, it's also a different fabric.
Yeah.
It's standing out. I mean, this guy, whether you know it or not, that chief isn't a big fan of you. So he's noticing this. And we probably have a small window here where we can take care of this. I mean, he's like, oh, bye. And I mean, he brought up, said something like, well, what about this guy over here gets out, away with it at some other fire? And I was like, I can't control that, man. Right. We can't control that. It's on another shift, another chief. I don't know. That's not a battle we're going to win. You're going to say, hey, well, chief, this other guy in this other battalion wears this shirt or whatever, so I don't have to follow the rules. How do you think that's going to work? I mean, the way it's probably going to play out is going to say, no, you're going to wear the shirt you're supposed to wear. I'm going to write you up. And then I'm going to go talk to that guy. And then, you know what I mean? And then maybe that guy gets, I mean, it's a no-win situation like that. I mean, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. So, I talked to him like that, explained it. And I said, look, man, and told him the whole thing. Like, look, if I don't enforce this, if you don't start wearing what you're supposed to be wearing, I'm going to get written up and you're going to get written up. It's as simple as that, man. This is coming down the road and we got to deal with it right now. I used all that stuff. Please help me, man. Help me out, dude. And he's like, all right, man, I got you. And it's like, okay, cool. And I mean, I think it worked better that way with his personality because I didn't come at him like boom, 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 because I could do that, right? I could go in there and I could say that and I would get that result. But now the question is, if I do it that way, so how's that going to work with training now? How's that going to work with other things in the firehouse?
So, and I'll just point this out because again, we're trying to, put things in perspective for people who are thinking about stuff like this. And again, it comes back, but I know who you're talking about, and that person was big on respect. Respect was a big thing to them. They wanted respect, for whatever. And I think you gave it to them with that approach. So you could have come in and done the authoritative thing and said, look, you better get those shirts out of here. I don't care if you paid for them. We're not wearing black shirts around here because the blah, 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 blah. But what you did is you showed them a certain amount of respect by kind of coming at the same level. Instead of an authoritative, you said, let's work together. Like, hey man, look, I know and honestly, the shirts did look great. I remember them. They were nice looking shirts, but it's like, we just can't do that, man. And so you showed him a level of respect, and that's what he needed out of that interaction, and he got it. So he gave you what you needed, which was the result of let's not do this anymore.
Yeah, and you have to explain, I think it's important too, is the why. Like a lot of people don't even understand the why. And beyond this uniform thing where you're trying to explain, we need to do this, and they don't understand the why or the consequences. You got to, if you're going to be the officer, if you're going to be the mentor, the senior firefighter, whatever that is, or you got to give people the why. You got to explain it. And sometimes you have to explain it multiple times. That's just the way it is. Yeah. It's not, if you have kids, you understand that, right? You can tell your kids to do something once. Are they going to do it that once? And they may not even be like, I'm not listening to dad or mom.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes parenting is just actually explaining things over and over and over again until they turn 18. Yeah,
and then sometimes it clicks finally. And maybe years later, same thing with the fire department. Maybe someone, they do it. They don't necessarily understand the why, but you explain it enough. And then they come to you 2 years later and like, I understand. I mean, I had, another example here, just personally, is I had a guy, I was on overtime, and I'm working, and the guy driving for me was very senior to me, one of the more senior guys in the fire department. And a box came out, and it's our first due, but we're kind of out of place. So I think we were second, probably going to be second on this. And I had realized as an officer, if I show up, on that box, not in my turnout gear, the pressure is so hard to recover from, just in general, if there's nothing on fire. But if there's something on fire and I'm not in full gear, man, it stresses you out to such a, degree. It's just overwhelming sometimes. So I came up with a default, where I said to myself, I was like, from now on, unless it's right here in the block, we're going to stop and we're going to get dressed. So I told the guy, I said, hey man, just pull over and get dressed. And he gave me a little bit of a hard time. And he's like, hey, I was like, we could be first, man. We could be first. Now we're not, I'm like, I gotta get dressed, dude. And I explained the why to him. We showed up. We ended up being second due, not first. It turned out to be nothing. I explained that to him, and I realized, and it was a little awkward, a little tough, because this guy had a lot more time than me, but I knew I was right. I had experienced the other side of it where it doesn't work out well. And I'm like, I got to do it this way. I can't let basically this pressure from this other person, even though I respect them, drive me in this direction. It isn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
So, and ultimately it comes down to delivering the emergency services we're supposed to deliver. And
Right.
I needed to do that to get that done. So fast forward, I explained all that to him. He gets promoted. And then years later, he says he had a similar experience where he wasn't dressed and how stressed out. And he just out of nowhere said to me, he's like, hey man, he's like, remember that years ago? And I was like, oh yeah, I kind of do. He's like, dude, you were right. And I mean, I'm not like patting myself on the back. No. I'm not, but the point about that is explaining sometimes that why doesn't immediately manifest itself with that person, but it's still important to give them the why of wearing the uniform, the why of the problems it's going to create if you don't, because that may eventually, that seed actually, finally may turn into a tree or something like that. And it's like, oh, wow, that, changed my perspective.
Yeah.
So the why is very important.
By the way, that individual from that story, they visited the firehouse the other day when you were out.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
I wish I was there. I gotta call him up.
Yeah, he seems like he's doing good though.
Yeah. I got one more story about that.
Okay,
cool. A different one.
All right, yeah, fire away.
So another story, uniform story, different situation. So, man, I think this is like my first year being an officer. All right, and there's a battalion chief. It's not my battalion chief, but another one. And he's working on the other side of the city. And he said, hey, I'm coming down to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, all right, sure enough. Coming down to talk to me. And one of the guys that worked for me wasn't in, he was like in PT clothes. So shows up and he wanted to get me straight on some other situation. He was looking out for me and everything else, and said, look, I'm looking out for it. I appreciate that. Everything else you need to do this. Okay. All right. Fair enough. But he saw the guy that wasn't in uniform, and there were some other issues that he was putting in line. So this was an uncomfortable whole conversation for me, but I understood where he was coming from, trying to say, same thing I was just telling you about the why of some other stuff. He was trying to help me out, man. It was funny because he ends with, he's like, all right, and I'm going to tell you this right now. Because he said, I like you. I'm trying to help you out. I'm going to tell you this right now, though. You go in there and you tell that guy that's in that PT clothes, because I know he's not PTing. You tell him he puts on a uniform now or I'm sending him home. I was like, okay. So I walk in the other room. I tell the guy, I was like, hey, man, she said you put a uniform on right now. He doesn't care. You trying to say you're PTing or whatever, or you're going home. And he's like, okay. So, I mean, and we respect it. He respected that guy. I respected that guy. So it was like one of those things, man. He was not, we were doing some stuff that, probably was going to create some problems for us. So he's talking to me about that. And then he was also trying to clean up this uniform thing. So it was one of those things I was like, all right, I hear it, man. Mm-hmm. We're going to get in line and everything else. So I appreciated it. I kind of felt bad for even having making
Push
him
them, yeah.
making him do all that, but it was kind of a funny approach where it was like a whole nother.
And it also speaks to, we talk a lot about tact and things like that. If you have the right relationship, every once in a while, not mincing words can be the best way. I mean, something direct like that, like tell him to fix it or he's going home.
Yeah.
That, that is the proper approach sometimes.
Yes.
And, again, we don't use names, but I happen to know the personality involved in this story, and that is the kind of approach that was necessary for that. It's like there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
Fix it now.
I was like, okay. We were all like, okay. So it's just interesting. Different approaches, different situations. Sometimes direct, more often than not, it's kind of this slow explanation, help me out, all that. But sometimes, like you said, direct, man, sometimes boom, do it, send it.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, it's a BC, right? Like, so an officer in a firehouse has time, right? They spend more time. So they have time to let some of these things kind of develop, whereas a BC might have to come in and say, hey, look, get it right. But then again, like I said, he's leveraging your relationship. Like, I'm telling you, if he doesn't fix it, he's going home. So you handle that however you see fit. I'm out of here. Which brings me to another thing I wanted to mention too, is this leadership capital, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you spend it a little bit every time you do this. Even if you do it the right way, you still spend your capital just a little bit. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that when you become an officer, you really do have to truly look at what matters to you and sort of take inventory of what really matters, right? Because you kind of have to pick your battles a little bit, because it becomes white noise. If everything is important to you, then nothing is important to you, right? So if you come in and it's like, we're going to do, the uniforms like we talked about, but also I want this kitchen cleaned every day, spick and span, and also I want the cab of the apparatus to be dust free. I want it mopped out every time. I want the bedrooms to be cleaned twice a day. You know what I mean? Like, really, all of that is important to you. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't sort of have different approaches for all these things that you want to get done at a firehouse and stuff, but you can't come in and say that everything is important, because you're not going to be able to use those tactics, right? Like if everything is like that, well, first of all, they're going to come in, they're going to be like, come on, get out of here.
Time management too. I mean, it's just impossible.
It's unreasonable, but also like you can only use that line so many times of, hey man, this is really important to me, right? It has to be really important to you. You can't bring somebody in, because after a while they're going to be like, you're manipulating me. You're using this relationship that we have to say things are important to you and then make me do it and they're not, So I think, officers, as I said, it's okay to bring it full circle back to the guy you were talking to who said that the uniforms were important to him. That's okay.
That's fine. I got no problem.
Yeah, that's no problem.
He's a higher
if it's
standard
reasonable
than I do. That's fine.
And that's your thing.
That's fine.
That's fine. I'm sure if you looked at it closely, there's certain things like that for you. I mean, obviously operational, that should be a given, but there's other maybe, smaller things that matter to you for one reason or another, and you've made that clear, and that's for this guy, but he can't do that with everything, right? Yeah. So if he gets promoted, he should probably do a little sit down with himself and be like, yeah, okay, that really is important to me, and here's why. And if you can articulate it to yourself, you can articulate it to somebody else, but also realize that some other things I'm not going to push as hard on. Is that fair? Yeah,
no, it's true. 100%. Yeah, you can't, everything can't be important to you. So yeah, that's the thing. I mean, operations should always be at the very top. And then from there, maybe a few other things in the firehouse, but yeah, it can't be too much. But yeah, even operations, you gotta kind of prioritize things with operations, like what is most important and what are things that are maybe unacceptable, like this has to be done every time, or this I'm going to give you leeway on that. So yeah, there's always those things to think through, talk about. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, all right, so I think we covered some good ground there. Some good practical stuff there. Got anything you want to say to bring home the episode?
No, just go to the website, firegroundcompany.com. check out the membership, check out the courses, check out the merchandise. We got some stuff on there. Got some little American flag things because I like that. I just made that for myself.
I'm looking forward to that.
They're available for you.
Are they available now?
Yeah, they're available now. So yeah, any of that stuff, it helps us. I mean, as I say, we don't have a Patreon. We don't have this other stuff. So that membership really helps this, keeps this going. Any of the little merchandise things, the courses help you a lot. Even the membership with the Q&A and then some of the other stuff we put on there and the Insider podcast, you get the Q&A and you get little things about little study habits or stuff like this where we, talk about different skills as an officer, firefighter, leadership skills and stuff like that. But it really, that jumps you ahead in your journey if you're trying to become an officer, trying to become a premier leader of your fire department. I wish I had a lot of the stuff now, understanding of leadership and how to talk to people, how to do all that, because I had to stumble through it. But anyway, check that out, firegroundcompany.com.
Cool. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for stopping by. Check us out at firegroundcompany.com. You'll find links to all our social media accounts and our YouTube channel, and you'll stay up to date on everything we're working on. We also have a store on our website where you can support us as we grow this community, plus working on some great courses to help you strengthen your leadership in the fire department and support its traditions and culture. Last but not least, subscribe to the podcast, give us a rating, leave a comment, spread the word, get this out to the firefighters who are hungry to make the job even better.